With the announcement of school closures due to COVID-19, many families are adjusting to virtual learning at home. However, students in special educational programs with different learning needs may feel this impact even more. Dr. Andrea Stolar, Director of Special Education for the Chicopee Public Schools, spoke with Connecting Point's Zydalis Bauer about what their district is doing to make sure that these students don't get left behind.
As we do face this challenging time, it takes all of us together, the community, the leadership, the families, the parents, and the students and the teachers to all work together. Um, and we're very lucky here with our leadership. Superintendent Clark has given us a remote learning plan that's detailed and is continuing like to communicate with us on a daily basis to kind of help us navigate because things change on a daily basis. Um, Special education also partners with the principals who are instructional leaders. So they're doing things, the principals are doing things like having virtual staff meetings. They're holding pre-recorded video chats for students, and they're really trying to support their teachers. And then you go down to the level of the teachers who are really working with a team approach. I mean, um, they have created like lesson libraries for them to share lesson plans with each other. They're really working with one another to connect with every child in the district. Um, and of course, we're very concerned about our special education students, our families. Because it's very important for us to make sure that we don't miss one single child. We want to make sure that we've reached everyone. We understand that during this time, it's difficult for our families because there are things like lack of devices, lack of internet, employment responsibilities. Just I think an overwhelming feeling overall. So we are definitely working with our students and families.
I'm glad that you brought up the lack of resources that some families might be facing, or even just families having to work and not being able to be there all day with their students. So how are you providing support, especially for families that need it the most, like those?
We are doing a lot of things, and we say remote learning comes in very various different forms. So we've provided technology, we've provided hotspots, we did a whole district wide rollout for Chromebooks. We're doing packets. I myself have printed out and mailed packets home to families. I actually was on a phone with a parent today, and we were walking through, her child has a visual impairment. We were walking through the different things that we could do to help support her and her child at home. We actually talked about doing some picture taking of some of the cooking activities they were doing. So it runs the gamut of different and various activities that we're doing to try to help the support the families. And the one thing I want to stress to families is if you need individualized support, please reach out to us because we want to help you.
I know that a lot of parents also might be worried about their child regressing during this remote learning, not having that hands-on professional guidance for their children. What do you have for those parents that are worried about that? What are some resources and advice that you can give them?
And that's a terrific question because that runs the gamut for all of our special ed students and all of our general ed students too. I mean, everyone's concerned because it's learning is not happening in the way that we're used to. It's not a brick and mortar situation anymore, and it is very different. And it's amazing the things that teachers have done to rise to the challenge. That's the first thing. So one of our biggest concerns is our most involved special needs students, which we're focusing on right now. We just put together a large order and provided so in a classroom we have one set of materials, so and everyone kind of shares them depending on the activities that they're doing. So what we've done now is I've reached out to those teachers and said, what do you need me to order so we're going to develop them into individualized orders. We're putting them together in backpacks and we're delivering them to individual students so that they can have their materials and manipulatives at home. So that's a big thing, and that's on the horizon. That's going to be happening over the next week, so that's very very exciting for us. Um, but I think another thing is too, we're having a CPAC meeting, which is a special education advisory team meeting. It's going to be a virtual meeting. It's parent led, and one of the things that we'll be focusing on is the stress of dealing with your special education child while you're at home and talking about routines and structure and ideas. So I have a social worker, I have a BCBA, I've reached out to a pediatrician. So I'm hoping that we have a really nice panel to answer some questions for families.
Yeah, and I know social and emotional struggles is something that all parents and not even parents, but people have been going through. And I noticed that what's really nice on the Chicopee Public Schools Facebook page is that there's some videos that are being done by some of the teachers. Can you talk to me about those videos?
Oh, it's amazing. And that's that whole library I was talking about of students creating lessons. They're using a program called Zones of Regulation, and they're doing social emotional groups. It is truly amazing. And then if I created a wonderful lesson and you wanted to use it for your group, you could then take the lesson over. So it's really showing a team approach and meeting so many students' needs. And this is a very important time where we're providing those supports and counseling services, and our social workers are available. We have a partnership with a counseling agency that's doing teletherapies. So there's a lot of supports out there for students to access and families to access. We are here.
In special education, I imagine that there's a range of capabilities from each student depending on their disability. Can you talk to me about how you're able to support those students individually and the amount of communication that's happening between the teacher and the student one-on-one?
People are doing amazing things like there's Class Dojo, Class Remind, Google Classroom. One of my team of teachers is having sports theme day for their Google meetings, and wear your favorite hat day. They're really trying to get creative. One of my other teachers has took our students' goals and objectives, broke them down into skill-based activities, shared it with parents so they can do things at home like silverware sorting, sock sorting, cooking activities, grooming activities. So they're doing creative and amazing things to try to reach all students. And so one of the things I think about when I think about different students, depending on the student's needs, there may be a student on the spectrum who is having a very difficult week. And a teacher may need to reach out to that student maybe multiple times in a day or multiple times in a week, where other students or other weeks, that's you may not need to do have such outreach, and there be weeks where the student's doing fine, and you're limiting your amount of communication necessarily. So I think it depends on student needs, and my teachers are very responsive. And the one thing I've been amazed to see is how well they really know their students, and I think teachers miss the school and teaching as much as the kids do.